A millionaire. His ex returns with an announcement far too brilliant. Amidst this grand stage, a domestic worker uncovers unforeseen evidence beyond whispers. An elegant lie might buy headlines, but what happens when truth claims the spotlight? How far to shield one's name and the heart of one who truly sees them? A pivotal decision, a telling dossier, a night to invert everything. This story promises to inspire and uplift. Afternoon light filled the Upper East Side penthouse. Elena Ramirez moved with precision. Every gesture mattered. Her microfiber cloth glided over the marble, leaving a spotless trail. Not the shine, but Sophia's soaring utility bill, summer heat demanding the fan run all night, preoccupied her. She thought of Leo, her ninth-grade nephew, struggling with math. She sought stability. Alex Sterling's four-suite apartment offered sweeping views of tree-lined streets. Elena, there 3 years, knew the office door's fake creak, Alex's pre-meeting coffee scent, his meticulous stacking of crucial contracts. She organized what others merely touched. She knew imported pens' locations, urgent document drawers, and his preference for slightly ajar blinds, letting natural light in without screen glare. Today she was alone. Alex left early for a meeting at Sterling Hospitality Group headquarters in Midtown Manhattan. She organized his shelf-lined home office, avoiding heavy Midtown traffic. The printer sat on a narrow cabinet. Moving it to dust, Elena saw the folder. It bore no label. Unusual. Alex meticulously labeled everything. Each document, its place, its purpose. This folder lay as though hastily concealed, then forgotten. She opened it. Not opening meant incomplete work. Inside were printed receipts, email copies, stamped delivery notes. Elena read slowly. Not curiosity, but method. A private clinic. Cash payments. Ultrasounds not in Vicky's name. A budget line item, complimentary visual material. Elena Ramirez had encountered Vicky Thorne 3 times in recent months. Alex's ex-fiancé would appear unannounced, bearing carefully crafted smiles and discussions of future prospects. Alex always grew tense during her visits. The last time, Vicky had spoken of fresh starts and responsibilities. Elena had served coffee and withdrawn from the room, yet Vicky's voice permeated the closed doors. It was a voice too sweet, laden with intentions Elena couldn't quite name, but felt hanging in the air, like the palpable scent of rain before a storm. Now, seated at the office desk with the folder open, Elena pieced together the puzzle. Medical reports that belonged to no one, fragmented payments, instructions for anonymization. One did not need to be an attorney to comprehend the implications. Someone was orchestrating the illusion of a pregnancy that simply did not exist. Elena's hands trembled. She closed the folder. The choice to speak or remain silent was far from simple. If she spoke and was mistaken, she would lose her job and potentially face legal action. If she stayed silent, she would become complicit in a falsehood that could irrevocably alter destinies. Yet, Elena had learned one truth in life. The truth does not seek permission. It arrives and waits for someone courageous enough to open the door. And Elena, the daughter of a woman who cleaned homes while singing to keep tears at bay, knew that courage was not the absence of fear. It was doing what was right, even as her legs shook beneath her. She placed the folder in the top right drawer and awaited Alex's return, mentally rehearsing the words she knew she would need to speak. Alex arrived at 7 in the evening. Elena heard the door open and the distinct sound of his shoes against the hardwood floor. He entered the office, carrying a leather briefcase and the profound weariness of one who had spent the day untangling endless problems. His shoulders were slumped in a way she had never witnessed before. "Good evening, Miss Ramirez," he said without looking at her. Alex always treated her with respect, yet a certain distance persisted. It wasn't disdain. It was the careful deference of someone unsure how to bridge the chasm separating employer from individual. He loosened his tie, an automatic gesture of one needing to breathe more freely after hours confined in meetings. "Good evening, Mr. Sterling." She held the discovered folder. "I need to speak with you." He paused. His gaze shifted from her to the folder. The silence stretched for 3 agonizing seconds. Sometimes 3 seconds are enough to alter everything. Elena watched his expression shift, like a cloud passing swiftly before the sun. "I found this behind the printer," Elena stated, her voice steady, despite her heart's frantic beat. "I didn't tamper with it beyond what was necessary for cataloging, but I believe you need to see it." Alex took the folder. He opened it. He read. Elena observed his jaw harden, the muscles in his neck contract, his breathing become slower and more profound. He did not deny it. He did not question her audacity in handling his belongings. He simply read, turning the pages with fingers that trembled ever so slightly. "Thank you for showing me," he said at last. His voice sounded hollow, as if emanating from a distant place within him. "I need to think about this." Elena waited. It was not her turn to speak. The air conditioner hummed softly, the only sound in the office apart from their breathing. "It's about the new hotel," Alex continued, more to himself than to her. "The launch is next week. The press will be there. Investors, the board. If this gets out now—" He ran a hand through his hair, disheveling his impeccable style. "My God, if this gets out now—" He did not complete the sentence. He did not need to. Elena understood the weight of decisions that do not fit into a quick answer. She understood because she also carried such decisions, albeit on a different scale. "May I go?" she asked. "Yes, and Miss Ramirez, I appreciate your honesty." He looked at her for the first time since he had entered. "Truly, thank you." She left the office and took the subway home, feeling the weight of having done the right thing without knowing if she would be rewarded or punished for it. The subway was crowded, as always at that hour. She gripped the pole tightly as she thought of everything that could happen. The next day, Vicky appeared. Elena was in the kitchen preparing juice when she heard her voice in the living room, sharp yet controlled. Words chosen with care, like someone who had rehearsed in front of a mirror. "I'm pregnant, Alex. Just a few weeks along. I know we ended things, but this changes everything." Elena held the glass pitcher and felt the cold against her palm. She heard Alex's silence. She heard Vicky continue, her voice gaining a tone of feigned urgency. "I thought we could announce it at the hotel launch. It would be beautiful. The press will love it. A reconciliation, a future, a family. Think about it, Alex. It's what everyone expects." Elena slowly placed the pitcher in the sink, making no sound. She walked to the service door and exited unnoticed. In the hallway, she leaned against the cool wall and closed her eyes. The truth she had delivered to Alex was about to be tested. And Vicky did not know that someone had already seen behind the scenes of the theater she was staging. Vicky did not take long to discover that something had changed. Elena realized this the following Monday when Brandon Shaw, Vicky's assistant, appeared in the building asking to speak with the building management. He was a thin man in an overly tight suit, with the kind of smile that did not reach his eyes. He used gel in his hair and had a way of speaking that always seemed to be selling something. Elena was cleaning the balcony windows when the internal phone rang. The building manager wanted to speak with her. She descended by elevator, her heart beating faster than it should. The metal doors reflected her distorted face, and she saw herself pale, with wide eyes. "Ms. Victoria Thorne has filed a formal complaint," said the building manager, a man with thick glasses who always spoke as if reading a public notice. She alleges that private documents were stolen from this residence and that you had unsupervised access to the office. Elena felt the floor give way beneath her feet. The building manager's office smelled of old paper and stale coffee. I didn't steal anything. I found a forgotten folder and gave it to Mr. Sterling. It's my job. She's asking that you be suspended until everything is clarified. The manager removed his glasses, cleaning the lenses with a cloth from his pocket. It's a formality. Mr. Sterling agreed to keep your salary, but you will no longer be allowed into the apartment. It wasn't a dismissal. It was something worse. It was the slow death of a reputation. Elena signed the suspension protocol with a trembling hand, leaving the building as her world spun unrecognizably. The pavement scorched under the midday sun. People rushed past, oblivious to the silent earthquake raging within her. The legal notice arrived 3 days later, addressed to Sofia Ramirez's home. Vicky Thorne demanded compensation for emotional distress, invasion of privacy, and defamation. The legal terms danced across the page. Elena understood barely half, but grasped the message: shut up or pay the price. The paper bore an elegant letterhead, as if the violence of the words became less violent when printed in a beautiful font. "Mom, I only did what was right," Elena said, sitting at the kitchen table of their apartment in Astoria, Queens. The apartment was small, its walls holding decades of stories. Sofia placed her hand over hers. Her skin was rough, marked by years of hard work. "I know, daughter. But sometimes doing the right thing comes at a high cost." Leo was leaning against the doorframe, headphones dangling around his neck. He was 14, with eyes that had already seen more than they should have. "Aunt, these people are rich. They have lawyers. We don't." Elena looked at her nephew and saw fear, not a child's fear. The fear of someone who already understands how the world works and knows that justice comes at a price. But Elena also knew something else. Giving up was not in her vocabulary. If she was going to fall, she would fall standing. And if she was going to fight, she would fight with the weapons she had. The truth was one of them. Now she needed to find the others, and she needed allies. People who believed in facts, not power. Arthur Henderson was 58, graying hair combed back, and an HP calculator he'd carried in his jacket's inner pocket for 30 years. He was Alex's trusted accountant, the man who knew the numbers before they became reports. Elena knew him by sight. He appeared at the penthouse once a month to review documents and always asked for coffee without sugar. He drank slowly, as if savoring each sip. She sought him out at his office, a commercial suite in the financial district, with walls lined with files. His secretary said he was occupied, but Elena asked to wait. She waited 2 hours, seated on a plastic chair in the reception area, watching people enter and exit with folders tucked under their arms. When Arthur emerged from the meeting room, she stood. "Mr. Henderson, I need 5 minutes." He looked at her over his reading glasses. "Miss Ramirez, I heard about your suspension. That's why I'm here." Arthur invited her in. The office was quiet, with the kind of silence that comes from meticulous organization. Every folder had its place. Every document was cataloged. His desk was clear, holding only a computer, a notepad, and his old calculator. She explained how she had found the folder. She didn't exaggerate. She didn't ask for pity. She simply recounted the facts, one by one, like someone assembling a puzzle. "And do you believe these receipts are real?" Arthur asked, his fingers interlaced on the table. "I believe someone paid for medical tests that weren't Miss Thorne's, and I believe there are financial transactions that can prove it." Arthur remained silent. He tapped his fingers on the table, producing a low, steady rhythm. "If I investigate and find nothing, you could face bigger problems. I know. But if you find something, perhaps I can prove I am not a thief." He sighed, the sigh of someone who knows they are about to enter complicated territory. I'll look into it, but I'll need time. Time was a luxury, but Elena accepted. Arthur began with the bank statements. Fractionated transfers. Vicky's corporate account to a medical service provider with an irregular history. Then came the doorman's logbook. Frank Miller, the building's doorman, was a veteran who recorded everything. Visitor's name, entry time, exit time, deliveries. He recorded because regulations required it, but also because he had been military, and orders were orders. His handwriting was small and precise, each line perfectly aligned. When Arthur asked to see the delivery records for the last quarter, Frank brought out a hardcover notebook with pages yellowed by time. There are envelopes from Viveri Clinic here, Frank said, pointing with a calloused finger. 3 weeks straight, always for Mr. Sterling's apartment. But the one who signed for them was that thin young man, Brandon. He claimed he was handling personal matters at the boss's request. Arthur photographed the pages with his cell phone, adjusting the angle to ensure everything was legible. He cross-referenced the dates with the receipts. Everything fit together. Payments, deliveries, messengers. The timeline was as clear as water flowing over stone. Elena was right, and now Arthur had proof. Proof that didn't rely on one person's word against another, but on documents, dates, signatures, facts. Arthur was not a man of impulse. He checked. He verified. He cross-referenced data. On the 4th day of his investigation, he found the spreadsheet. It was buried in the digital archives of Vicky Thorne's company. Accessible because Alex Sterling held a minority stake in the fashion brand, granting him audit rights. The spreadsheet listed narrative costs under marketing expenses, amounts that aligned with clinic payments, values too small for immediate suspicion, yet too significant to dismiss. It was accounting engineering, not illegal, but profoundly unethical. Arthur printed everything. He meticulously assembled a dossier using metal clips to section off receipts, statements, doorman records, emails, and the incriminating spreadsheet. He then summoned Elena back to his office. "You were right, Miss Ramirez," he affirmed, placing the sheets on the table with the care of one handling something both fragile and immensely powerful. "This details the purchase of medical exams, falsification of documents, and there's more." He then displayed the recovered emails. The apartment's printer retained temporary memory, which Arthur knew how to access. Messages between Vicky and Brandon discussed sustaining the narrative, mentioning a convenient father and prior fertility clinic consultations. In one email, Brandon explicitly stated, "If pressed, we have Plan B. I'll temporarily claim paternity, then we'll announce a reconciliation." Elena read, a wave of nausea washing over her. Her stomach churned. She took a deep, deliberate breath to quell the rising bile. This was more than a mere lie. It was an elaborate architecture of deceit, constructed with the same exacting precision one dedicates to raising a building. Foundation, structure, finish. "What do I do with this?" she queried, her voice raw. "You present this to Mr. Sterling, but not alone. I will accompany you." The hotel launch was slated for Friday, just 2 days away. Arthur and Elena meticulously prepared a presentation. Devoid of theatrics, it offered methodical clarity. Each document source was identified, every assertion fortified by attached documentary proof. Arthur understood that in both law and business, the essence lies not in truth itself, but in the compelling ability to demonstrate it unequivocally. Meanwhile, Vicky fine-tuned her own scheme. Brandon had secured prime space for photographers. They had meticulously rehearsed the moment, like seasoned actors perfecting a scene. She would ascend the stage after Alex's address, grasp his hand, and the announcement would emerge as a painstakingly crafted surprise. "We're expecting a child." The headlines would compose themselves. Vicky's company shares would surge. Creditors would grant forbearance. The Sterling board would embrace the reconciliation. However, what Vicky remained blissfully unaware of was Elena's unwavering resolve, and that the dossier was now complete, bound, and comprehensively indexed. On Thursday evening, Elena's phone rang. The number wasn't saved, yet she instantly recognized the voice. It was Alex. "Miss Ramirez, I know I let you go. It was a mistake. I need you to come tomorrow night, before the event. There are things I need to hear." Elena felt relief mingle with fear. The two emotions intertwined in her chest like threads of different colors. "I'll be there. And bring Arthur." She hung up. She looked at Sophia, who was sitting in the armchair, watching a telenovela with the volume low. Her mother smiled. She said nothing. She didn't need to. Her smile said it all. "I always knew you could do it." Leo appeared from the kitchen with a glass of juice. "Aunt Elena, it's going to be all right." "How do you know?" "Because you didn't give up. And those who don't give up always have a chance." Elena hugged her nephew and felt that regardless of the outcome, she had done more than defend her own honor. She had taught Leo that fighting is worthwhile, even when the odds seem small. The newly opened The Sterling Grand Hotel in Hudson Yards was everything Alex had planned. Modern lines, a vertical garden on the facade, a double-height lobby, and chandeliers that resembled floating sculptures. Elena entered through the side, where the administrative area was located, at 7 in the evening. The event would begin at 8. Arthur was already there, sitting on a corridor chair, with a leather briefcase on his lap and the serene expression of someone who knows the value of what he carries. He stood up when he saw her. They said nothing. They simply exchanged a look that meant, "It's time." Alex received them in a small meeting room with a glass table and Scandinavian design chairs. He was in a tuxedo, but his tie was still loose, hanging around his neck. His hands trembled slightly when he closed the door. Elena noticed. It was the first time she had seen him nervous. "Thank you for coming." His voice emerged deeper than usual. "I know I asked a lot, and I know I was wrong to dismiss you, Miss Ramirez. I have no excuse. Only fear. Fear of believing the wrong thing." Elena sat. It was not the time to accept apologies. It was time to present facts. Arthur opened the briefcase. He placed the documents on the table one by one, like someone dealing cards in a high-stakes game. Receipts, bank statements, doorman logs, emails, the narrative costs spreadsheet. Each paper landed on the table with a dry sound that echoed in the silence. Alex read in silence. Elena watched his face harden. She saw his jaw clench. She saw his breathing grow heavier, his chest rising and falling with greater force. She saw his hands grip the edges of the papers until his knuckles turned white. "Brandon," Alex said, pointing to a printed email, his voice controlled but heavy with rage. "He was involved from the beginning." "Yes," Arthur confirmed, "and there's more." We cross-referenced her periods of absence with fertility clinic appointments. Brandon's name appears as an accompanying person on 3 occasions. In one of her messages, she writes, "If they press, we say there was a brief relapse with a trusted friend, but Alex will take responsibility for the optics." The silence that followed was heavy as lead. Elena watched Alex close his eyes and take a deep breath, like someone trying to control something threatening to erupt. It wasn't heartbreak. It was rage. Rage at being treated as a pawn in a game he hadn't known he was playing. "She's going to announce it tonight," Alex said, opening his eyes. "In front of all the press, Photographers, investors, the family board. My father will be there. And you're going to let her? Elena asked. Her voice came out firm. It wasn't disrespect. It was a challenge. It was the voice of someone who had risked everything to bring the truth to this point and would not accept it being ignored. Alex looked at her. For the first time, Elena saw no distance. She saw recognition. She saw respect. No, he said, his voice gaining firmness. I won't. Arthur carefully gathered the documents and put them back in the folder. We have enough proof to refute everything. And we have independent sources. Frank, the doorman. The apartment's own printer. The bank statements. It's not word against word. It's facts against lies. Alex stood up. He adjusted his tie with precise movements. He looked in the wall mirror, and for a moment, seemed to be recognizing himself. Can you both stay? I want you to be in the room when I give the speech. If she tries anything, I want you to be ready to act. Elena nodded. Arthur did too. 40 minutes remained until the event began. Outside in the lobby, Vicky was talking to journalists, her aquamarine dress shining under the lights. Brandon stood beside her, discreet, with a practiced smile. They didn't know the game had changed, and that the truth was about to take the stage. The lobby was packed. Executives in suits, journalists with cameras, influencers recording everything on cell phones raised like torches. The indirect lighting created a sophisticated atmosphere, and the ambient sound was a soft bossa nova playlist seeping from the embedded wall speakers. Elena stood at the back, near the door leading to the kitchen. Arthur was beside her, folder under his arm, vigilant. Vicky wore an aquamarine dress that accentuated her silhouette. Her hair was pulled back in a low, elegant bun, and she smiled at everyone passing by. Every smile was calculated, every gesture rehearsed. Brandon stood 3 steps behind, attentive, cell phone in hand, coordinating photographers with discreet nods. They appeared confident. They looked like people who knew exactly how the night would end. Alexander Alex Sterling ascended the stage at 8:15. The murmur receded like a retreating tide. He thanked everyone for their presence, spoke of the Sterling Hospitality Group's vision, emphasizing the importance of crafting experiences that honored the city and its people. He spoke of transparency, of core values, of legacy. His voice was firm, controlled, professional. Elena Ramirez watched Victoria Thorne position herself near the side of the stage. She was ready, her body leaning slightly forward, like a runner awaiting the starting gun. Brandon Shaw signaled the photographer, who raised his camera. Then Alex shifted his tone. His voice grew more serious, more weighted. Before concluding, I must make an important announcement. Sterling Hospitality Group has always upheld ethics in its partnerships, and recently we became aware of situations that led us to review certain contracts. The silence grew dense, almost solid. Elena saw Vicky's brow furrow, her confidence beginning to fracture like glass under pressure. Brandon stopped fiddling with his phone, his eyes fixed on the stage. For reasons of compliance and responsibility, we announce that contracts with companies that do not adhere to the same principles of transparency will be terminated. This includes marketing partnerships and image agreements. Sterling Hospitality Group does not associate with practices that undermine the trust our clients place in us. Alex did not name names. He did not need to. The message was clear to those who needed to understand. Vicky understood. Her face lost its color, her skin turning pale beneath the carefully applied makeup. He descended from the stage. Journalists approached with questions, microphones extended like spears. Alex led them to a private room where he presented selected documents. Not all of them, just enough to justify the decision without turning it into a spectacle. He did not publicly humiliate Vicky, but he made it clear that Elena had been unjustly accused and that the accusations were baseless. He made it clear that the company upheld its standards. Meanwhile, in the lobby, Vicky searched for Brandon. Her eyes were wide, panic beginning to emerge beneath her mask of control. What happened? Did he know? Brandon was pale, his forehead gleaming with sweat. Someone spoke. Someone showed him something. Who? I don't know, but we have to leave, now. They tried to exit discreetly, but the journalists already possessed the information Alex had provided. Questions began to surge, voices overlapping in a growing cacophony. Is it true you made false accusations against an employee? Is there an investigation into medical documents? Is your company being audited? Vicky did not respond. She exited the hotel with Brandon trailing her, her heels striking hard against the marble floor, each step echoing like an accusation. The narrative she had so carefully constructed crumbled in less than an hour. Elena watched everything in silence. She felt no pleasure in Vicky's defeat. She felt only relief, the kind of relief that comes when a weight is lifted from one's chest, and it is finally possible to breathe deeply, to fill the lungs completely. Arthur touched her shoulder. You did the right thing. I know, Elena said, and for the first time in weeks, she truly believed it. In the days that followed, Elena's life began to change in a way she had not expected. Alex formally withdrew the suspension in a certified letter that arrived on Monday. He apologized before the internal team, in a meeting where all employees were present. He put in writing that she had acted in defense of the truth and the company's assets. The building management filed Vicky's false complaint and sent a retraction notice. But the reparation did not stop there. It was as if a door had opened, and beyond it lay possibilities Elena had never dared to imagine. The following week, Alex called her for a conversation. Not in the penthouse. In the network's office, in Midtown Manhattan, on the 23rd floor of a glass building that reflected the sky, Elena took the bus, wearing the same clothes she wore to work, but feeling that something had shifted in the air, like when the season is about to turn. Miss Ramirez, I need someone to organize the group's residences in New York, someone to standardize routines, train teams, create control processes, someone I can truly trust. Elena blinked, processing the words. Are you offering me a supervisory position? I am, with a competitive salary, full-time employment, benefits, and with the condition that you continue caring for your family. I know you have your mother and Leo. She felt her chest tighten, not from fear, from emotion, the emotion of seeing her work recognized, her dignity restored. I accept, but with a condition of my own. Alex raised his eyebrows, surprised. It was rare for someone to impose conditions on him. What is it? I want to take a course. Business management and hospitality operations, evening classes. To truly learn with a certificate. He smiled. It wasn't the polite smile of a boss adhering to protocol. It was the smile of someone who recognizes courage when he sees it. I will pay for the course. It's not a favor. It's an investment in someone who has proven her worth. Elena returned home with the signed contract in a clear folder and the feeling that life had turned in the right direction. On the bus, she held the folder against her chest and looked out the window, seeing the city pass with different eyes. In Astoria, Sophia prepared homemade apple pie, her daughter's favorite. Leo was studying at the kitchen table, but stopped when he saw his aunt enter with that sparkle in her eye. So, Auntie, how did it go? I got the job, supervisor, and I'm going to study. The company will pay for it. Leo stood and hugged her with the awkward strength of a teenager still learning to express affection. I knew it. I knew you'd make it. Sophia wiped her hands on her apron and hugged her daughter, smelling of home-baked comfort. You deserve it, my child. You always did. Since you were tiny, you've always been so strong-willed. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Vicky faced her own consequences. Her fashion brand lost 3 major sponsorships in 1 week. Creditors demanded a full audit. The story leaked to gossip blogs, and while details were vague due to legal issues, her reputation was stained in a way no makeup could hide. Brandon was fired and now faced charges for involvement in document forgery. His lawyers tried to reach a settlement, but the evidence was too solid. Frank, the doorman, received a formal commendation from building management for maintaining exemplary records. Arthur consolidated his position within the group by demonstrating that method and transparency were worth more than brilliant campaigns or seductive shortcuts. And Elena, for the first time in years, felt she wasn't just surviving, she was building something solid. She had a stable job, she had the chance to study, and more importantly, she had proven to Leo that fighting is worthwhile, that truth has weight, that dignity is non-negotiable. The truth hadn't screamed. It had merely stood up, calmly, and shown its face. And the world had to look and acknowledge. 3 months later, Elena was sitting in a classroom at a community college in Long Island City, Queens. The professor explained process management concepts, drawing flowcharts on the whiteboard, and she jotted everything down in a hardcover notebook she had bought especially for the course. Beside her, a 40-year-old woman who worked at a law firm and dreamed of opening an organizational business. In front, a young man in his 20s who wanted to start a specialized cleaning company. Everyone had stories. Everyone had reasons. Everyone was there because they believed it was possible to change their lives through knowledge. Elena returned home by subway, tired but satisfied, her backpack heavy with books and handouts. Leo always waited up to hear what she had learned, sitting in the living room with his notebook open. "Aunt, what about that flowchart thing you talked about yesterday?" "It's a map of the work. It shows each step, each responsible person, where problems might arise. It helps avoid wasting time or materials." Leo jotted it down in his notebook with neat handwriting. "When I grow up, I'll work with you. We can have a company together." Elena smiled, running a hand through her nephew's hair. "You'll work wherever you want, Leo. The world is big. But if you want to work with me, we'll need a lot of flowcharts." Her relationship with Alex Sterling had also changed. It was not friendship, not yet, but it was mutual respect, the kind built with time and consistent actions. He sought her opinion on matters he once decided alone. She suggested improvements based on practical experience, not theory. Some were implemented immediately, others were not. But he listened. He truly listened, taking notes, asking questions. One afternoon, during a meeting in the penthouse regarding property management, Alex commented on a social project the group was considering. A hospitality career development program for young people, focusing on front desk, housekeeping, and client services. He looked at Elena with that expression she was learning to recognize. The look of someone who values an honest opinion. "Miss Ramirez, do you know young people who could benefit from this? People with a genuine desire to truly work?" She thought of Leo. She thought of other boys and girls from Queens, children of cleaners, doormen, drivers, good people who just needed a chance. "I do, and I can recommend some." "Then recommend them. I want this to be real, not empty publicity. I want people who will seize the opportunity." Elena recommended Leo and 5 of his friends from public school. All of them were accepted into the program. The course included basic English classes, customer service, time management, and hospitality fundamentals. Leo began talking about wanting to work at a hotel front desk, meeting people from other countries. He stopped talking about being a professional athlete a dream many kids from the outer boroughs hold, but few ever achieve. Sofia Ramirez, seeing her grandson change, seeing his eyes light up when he spoke of the course, sighed with relief. "Elena, you changed that boy's life. You gave him a future." "No, Mom. I just showed him there's another path. He chose to walk it. The credit is his." Meanwhile, Elena began structuring her own business. It was not grand. It did not have a sophisticated office. It was a service for organizing and standardizing high-end residences and offices. She formally registered it as an LLC, obtained an EIN, and created standard contracts with confidentiality and civil liability clauses. Her first client was the Sterling Group itself, which officially contracted her services. Subsequent clients arrived through word-of-mouth referrals, as happens when work is well done. Initially, she handled clients alone, carrying her backpack with cleaning supplies and a clipboard for evaluations. Then, she hired 2 assistants, women she knew from church who needed full-time employment. Then 4. The business grew slowly but steadily, like a well-watered plant. One day, at one of the residences she managed in Manhattan, Elena paused on the balcony and gazed at the city. New York was immense, clamorous, and at times unjust. Yet, it was also a place where those who labored with dignity could build something more than mere survival. She thought of how it had all begun: a forgotten folder, a difficult decision, the courage not to remain silent when it would have been easier to pretend she saw nothing. And now she stood there, with her own company, employees under her supervision, and the certainty that she had made the right choice, even when the path seemed impossible. The relationship between Elena and Alex began to transform in a way neither of them had planned. There was no decisive moment. There was no dramatic declaration worthy of a telenovela. It was something that grew in the spaces between words, in the silences that spoke more than entire sentences. Alex began to ask about her mother, about Leo, about her course. These were not questions of social courtesy, the kind people ask without truly wanting to know the answer. They were questions from someone who genuinely wanted to know her life, to understand where she came from. "How is Leo doing in the program?" "Well, he gets good grades in English. He wants to study hospitality in college. I'll ensure he gets an internship when the time comes. If he wants it, of course." Elena looked at Alex. They were in the penthouse reviewing property maintenance reports. "You don't have to do that." "I know, but I want to. He's good. I saw the project coordinator's report. She said he has a talent for dealing with people." It was generosity, but it was also something more. It was his way of saying that she mattered, that her family mattered, that he saw in her not just an efficient employee, but a complete person, with a history, with roots, with people who depended on her. Elena, in turn, began to notice things. The way Alex grew quiet when he was troubled, staring at the horizon without truly seeing anything. The way he rubbed his thumb against his forefinger when making difficult decisions. The fact that he never ate the last piece of bread on the table because he said someone always had more hunger than he did. Small gestures that revealed the man behind the executive. One evening, after a meeting that extended until 9, Alex offered her a ride. Elena hesitated. There was an invisible line, and accepting a ride felt like crossing it. But the subway was already packed at that hour, and she was tired. She accepted. In the car, as the driver navigated through congested Manhattan traffic, Alex asked about her neighborhood. Elena told him. She spoke of the streets that would flood when it rained heavily, of the corner bakery that opened at 5 in the morning and sold fresh baked goods, of the neighbors who knew everyone and helped each other when someone was in need. "Sounds like a good place," he said, his voice soft. "Yes, it's not the Upper East Side, but it's mine. It's where my mother raised us. It's where Leo is growing up." Alex was silent for a few seconds, watching the city lights through the glass. Then he said, "Sometimes I think I live in the wrong place." Elena looked at him, surprised. "What do you mean? The Upper East Side is beautiful. The trees, the brownstones, everything is orderly. But there's no life. Everyone smiles, but no one truly cares. It's all appearances." She did not answer immediately. She didn't know what to say, but she understood that Alex was tired of living in a world where people only saw him as a walking asset, as someone who could be useful, but never as just a person. They began to talk more after that. Not just about work, about choices they had made, about regrets they carried, about the weight of family expectations. Alex told her about his father, a hard man who measured success exclusively in numbers and business expansion. Elena told him about her mother, who cleaned houses, singing old songs to keep from crying while scrubbing other people's floors. "Your mother seems strong," Alex said with genuine admiration. "She is, but everyone has limits. Hers almost broke a few times." "And you? What's your limit?" Elena thought. She looked out the window at the passing lights. "I don't know. I haven't reached it yet. I hope I never do." Alex smiled. "I don't think I've reached mine either, but I'm learning where it is." They did not notice when they started looking for excuses to be in the same place. Meetings that could be resolved by email turned into in-person conversations. Simple emails turned into long exchanges. Work conversations extended late, naturally drifting into personal matters. Sophia noticed. Mothers always notice. "Is that boss of yours a good man?" "He is, Mom." "A good man as a boss, or genuinely a good man?" Elena did not answer immediately, but the answer was already within her, as clear as day. Alex was genuinely a good man, and that frightened and comforted her at the same time. Like every truly important thing. At the end of the 6th month, Alex invited Elena to dinner, not at an expensive Upper East Side restaurant with valet and a sommelier, at a pizzeria in Greenwich Village he claimed was the best in New York, a small place with formica tables and waiters shouting orders to the kitchen. Elena went in jeans and a simple cotton blouse. Alex was without his jacket, in a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. They looked like two ordinary people on a Saturday night, and perhaps that was exactly what they were in that moment. Just two people trying to get to know each other beyond the layers of class, of work, of history. "I want to thank you," Alex said after they ordered the margarita pizza. It was the first time he addressed her by her first name, without the Mrs. before it. "For what? For showing me the truth when it would have been easier to stay silent, for not giving up when I pushed you away, for reminding me that character matters more than convenience." Elena took a sip of water, the cold glass in her hands. "You showed character too. You could have fired me on the spot to avoid a bigger problem. And I would have lived with the lie. I would have let that woman use me. I didn't want that. I didn't want to wake up every day knowing I had chosen the easy path." They ate in comfortable silence, the kind of quiet that only exists between people who don't need to fill every second with words. The pizza was hot, the cheese melting perfectly, the tomato sauce tasting like home. Afterward, Alex asked about her future, his eyes genuinely interested. Elena spoke of her business plans, of hiring more people, of perhaps, one day, having her own office with a waiting room and a secretary. "And you?" she asked, allowing herself the intimacy of addressing him simply by his first name. "What do you want for your life?" Alex looked at his glass of beer, as if the answer floated in the golden liquid. "I want to build things that matter. Not just beautiful hotels for those with money. Projects that help people." I know it sounds idealistic, a bit naive. It doesn't sound that way. It sounds human. It sounds like someone tired of living solely for numbers on a spreadsheet. He looked at her, and Elena felt something stir in her chest. It wasn't just physical attraction, though that was there too. A current passing between them when their eyes met. It was the recognition that this man, despite all the differences in class and wealth, was striving to be better, more truthful. And she respected that deeply. "May I ask you something?" Alex said, his voice lowering. "You may. Do you think it's possible for someone like me and someone like you, I don't know how to put this, to build something together? Something real?" Elena took a deep breath. Her heart beat faster. "It depends on what you want to build. Something true, without lies, without games, just two people trying. Then yes, because real doesn't depend on money or where we live. It depends on truth, and truth we've already proven we can have." Alex smiled. It was a different smile from any she had seen on him before. It wasn't the smile of an executive closing a deal. It wasn't the polite smile of someone adhering to social protocol. It was the smile of a man who had found something he didn't know he was looking for, and upon finding it, immediately recognized it. They didn't kiss that night, but when Alex dropped her off at home and waited in the car until she went inside, waving from the window, Elena knew something had irreversibly changed. In the months that followed, they continued to get to know each other, slowly, without rushing, without demands. Alex met Sophia, who made homemade apple pie and served freshly brewed coffee. He met Leo, who became less timid when he realized Alex genuinely asked about basketball, not just to be polite. Elena met his parents, who treated her with distant politeness at first, that chill of those who disapprove but have no means to forbid. But gradually, seeing that she wasn't there for money, that she had her own business and dignity, the temperature rose a few degrees. Leo liked Alex because he truly inquired about his studies, read his school assignments, and offered honest opinions. Sophia liked him because she saw in her daughter's eyes the happiness she deserved, that sparkle which had faded when their father left and was now slowly returning like the rising sun. And Elena, for the first time in her adult life, allowed herself to believe that love didn't have to be complicated, full of drama and suffering. It just needed to be true. It just needed to be built day by day, with consistent choices and mutual respect. A year after the launch night, Elena stood on the penthouse balcony with Alex. They had just returned from dinner with the social project team. Leo was there, no longer a student, but now a mentor to new participants, helping boys and girls who arrived as timid as he once had. "He's grown," Alex said, watching the sky begin to darken over New York City. "He has, and you helped with that. You gave him opportunity." Alex shook his head. "You helped. You raised him with your mother. You taught him values. I only provided the opportunity. The rest was the character you both built in him." Elena leaned into him. She did it now, without fear, without calculation, without considering social conventions or class differences. She simply leaned in because she wanted to, because it felt good to feel his warmth. "We helped together." They stood in silence, looking out at the illuminated city. New York City never slept. There was always movement, noise, life pulsating through its streets and avenues. From above, the lights looked like fallen stars on the earth. "You know what I learned from all this?" Elena said, her voice soft. "What? That truth is heavy. It takes effort. It scares you. But a lie is even heavier, because you carry a lie alone in the dark, afraid someone will discover it. Truth, you can share. You can put it on the table and say, 'Look, this is real.'" Alex turned to her, his eyes reflecting the city lights. Thank you for sharing it with me, for trusting. Thank you for believing, for not choosing the easier path. They kissed. It wasn't their first kiss, but it was the kind of kiss that confirmed choices, that reaffirmed unspoken promises, that said without words, "We are in this together, whatever comes." Inside the apartment, Sofia Ramirez slept in the guest room. She had come for the weekend and accepted without question when Elena said she was living with Alex. Her mother hadn't asked if they were getting married, hadn't pressed for plans. She'd simply said, "You look happy, my daughter, and you deserve to be happy." Leo was on the sofa, watching a movie on his laptop, headphones on. He too had accepted everything naturally, not because Alex was wealthy, but because he saw his aunt smile more, saw that she no longer returned home with that weariness that went beyond the body. The story hadn't concluded with a fairy tale wedding. It had ended with two individuals constructing something real, brick by brick. Alex continued to command the hotel chain, but now guided by new values, with social projects that weren't just marketing. Elena, not because it was just in a cosmic sense, but because each person had made choices that had real, measurable, human consequences. And Elena, as she looked back that night on the balcony, didn't see a domestic worker who discovered a false pregnancy and became a headline. She saw a woman who chose the truth when lying was easier. She saw a woman who fought when giving up was safer. She saw a woman who built dignity in a world that tried to take it from her, but couldn't because she didn't let it. The truth hadn't come with trumpets. It hadn't come with melodrama. It had come with small steps, organized documents, concierge logs filled with rigor, honest conversations, silent courage to do the right thing when no one was looking. And in the end, it was the truth that changed everything. Because in the end, it always is. Elena leaned her head against Alex's shoulder and closed her eyes, feeling the warm night wind from the Manhattan skyline on her skin, listening to the distant murmur of the city that never stops. Tomorrow would be another day of work, of struggle, of slow and persistent construction. But tonight, in this moment, she simply was at peace with herself, with her choices, with the path she had traveled. And that, she discovered, was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.